Hello and welcome to Candidates Up Front, a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. I'm Bill Litvin, a member of the League. Our November 8th general election is coming up. We will vote for state and federal officials. The deadline to register is October 24th. The League is interviewing candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and will have the same amount of time to answer them. Two candidates are competing in the 124th Pennsylvania House District, Democrat Tina Burns and Republican Jamie Barton. This district is the northern corner of Berks County, including Lenhartsville, Hamburg, Kutztown, and also parts of Schuylkill County. State representatives serve a 2-year term in the state legislature in Harrisburg. They initiate legislation and vote to create laws. They pass the budget, including taxes and expenditures of the state. They help constituents with issues regarding state government. The salary for a state representative is $90,335 per year plus benefits and expenses. Please note that the opinions expressed in this interview are those of the candidate and are not the opinions of the League of Women Voters or Berks Community Television. This interview is with Jamie Barton. Welcome. Mr. Barton, please tell our viewers about yourself and why you are running.
Sure, and thank you for having me also. My name is Jamie Barton, and I am running for the 124th Legislative District in Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And quite frankly, it's just a natural transition for me. Bill, it makes sense. My background is of community service and of business, and I've been in the energy business for 33 years. And along with that, extremely involved in my community, my church, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and multiple philanthropic events as well. So it made exact perfect sense for me to move in this direction.
You are a Republican. What draws you to your party?
I guess I'm giving up my age here, but the first person I got to vote for was Ronald Reagan, and I didn't know Ronald Reagan as an actor. I knew him as a leader. I knew him as a president, and I was drawn to his values. So I am 57, by the way. But the core values of the Republican Party, is what draws me to him. I'm a very conservative person.
Are there things about your party you are not comfortable with?
I guess I don't know specific about my party, but specific to politics, absolutely. I think there's a sense of meanness, a sense of distrust, a sense of, and not a sense, actual hatred in politics. So that bothers me in politics. I don't want to say necessarily the party, but it takes two to tango.
In the General Assembly, your party will want you to vote the party line. People who voted for you want you to vote their view. People who did not vote for you still expect you to represent their views, and you will have your own ideas. How will you balance these expectations? Tell us your thinking process.
Sure. It's funny because some people will say your district. The 124th isn't my district. It's the district of the constituents. The only way it's my district is because I'm a constituent there also, and I'm not an elected official yet. So the right thing to do is vote the way the constituents of your district want. So that's why I go door to door. That's why I go business to business, meeting people, trying to understand what's going on in their specific business and in their homes.
On the first day of the legislative session, you will be asked to approve the rules of conducting business. These rules allow committee chairs, who represent only 17% of Pennsylvanians, to block legislation even if the majority of legislators support it. Should these rules stay as they are or be changed?
So, Bill, I'm not from the political world. I'm from the business world. And while I try to understand all the issues at hand, I don't know them all. And very candidly, I'm not aware of this specific issue. I'm not going to try to tell you that I have an answer for you there, and I'm not being vague.
Sure.
Just don't have an answer for you.
Maybe that's something you could think a response to afterwards and put it on your website, and we can link that to vote411.org so the voters can get information about how you feel about that, because it is an important issue.
And I have made a note on that already. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I was about to read that question again, so I'm glad I didn't. Lately, to get around the governor's veto pen, the legislature has written constitutional amendments to be voted on in primary elections, which have low turnout. In the long run, do you feel it is appropriate to enshrine in our state constitution things that are normally handled legislatively?
Well, so let's take a look at what just happened this week. So we had the voter registration. Now you're referencing the primary, but mid-election cycle, we have a voter registration form that's changed. I think that's absolutely wrong. We have a voter registration that is now combined with a mail-in vote application. It's confusing to the employees, our fine employees of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's confusing to people because they're two absolutely different pieces, right? There's the voter registration. You can't do one without the other. You can't ask for a mail-in vote if you're not registered to vote. So why would you combine those two pieces? So it's very disturbing that happened.
Okay, but in terms of the constitutional amendments, do you think that should be done this way, or?
I think we've got a lot of problems with the voting system right now,
Okay.
and voter confidence and and election integrity.
Okay, we'll ask some more questions on that, but let's switch topics for a minute here. Everyone I know is pro-life, but it means different things to different people. Ending gun violence is pro-life, preventing climate change, protecting endangered species, being against abortion, being in favor of choice on abortion, universal health care, ending the death penalty, all are pro-life. On which of these issues or other issues do you consider yourself pro-life?
Yeah, you hit a lot of things there, and we'll try to touch on all of them. But I think I consider myself pro-life also. I also think it's important to share. I mentioned earlier that I'm very involved in my church. I'm a lay pastor there, and I teach Sunday school there. I'm a strong Christian, and I am pro-life as well. And I know that in the general sense, I think that people use pro-life. That's a difficult topic. It's a difficult topic with people in my life. I think it's a difficult topic across. And when we go back to the conversations we've had with politics in general, I think one of the things we need to do is approach any of these topics as it relates to pro-life with decency, with respect, and with compassion for the feelings of others. We haven't walked a mile in their shoes in most cases. I think when we talk about, sorry, I'm trying to remember all the climate change. Again, I'm not a scientist, and I shared earlier, if there's something I don't know, I'm not going to try to tell you that I do. I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that the best way to solve this is to get the government involved. I think we should be led by innovation in the private sector as it relates to anything revolving climate change.
Okay. Pregnancy is not benign. In the United States, for every 100,000 pregnant women, 23.8 die during or soon after pregnancy. This is a much, much higher level than in other developed nations. It especially hits minority and rural women. Does Pennsylvania have a responsibility to provide more support to pregnant women to prevent these deaths?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll go back to the pro-life piece, right? Mm-hmm. I think we need to support pregnant women and do everything we possibly can to not only save that child, but save the mother. It's a difficult situation, but absolutely I believe Pennsylvania does need to do anything we can to save lives.
So might that include something like the family medical leave and kind of things for free health care for pregnant women, things like that?
I think that we need to do Pennsylvania needs to do whatever we can.
Okay, and with your district, any kind of funding for rural medical care that would be helpful?
I don't want to
Okay, that's getting
confuse that.
little in the weeds. Okay. The Pennsylvania legislature recently voted to spend $20 million to help religious institutions and schools add security to their buildings. The money is much appreciated, but with every invention of another weapon, we need to up the security again. Gun violence costs the United States $557 billion annually. For perspective, that's more than 10 times Pennsylvania's annual budget. It's police, ambulance, hospital emergency rooms, and ongoing care for the wounded. These costs add to inflation. What can the state legislature do to reduce gun violence and reduce the cost to taxpayers and to the companies that provide health insurance to their employees?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, people who are dangerous shouldn't have guns. I think that, again, I made it clear that I'm a conservative. I'm a strong proponent of the Second Amendment. And with that comes supporting our police. I think what we've seen in the past 2 years specifically is that, and let me be more specific, in the 124th, you named some of the municipalities of Hamburg and Lenhartsville and Tamaqua in Schuylkill County. Those are the biggest metropolitan municipalities in the 124th. And candidly, I'm not joking, candidly, they are rural areas, right? They're rural. So we're rural. And what we're seeing is police departments in rural Pennsylvania fall apart because people can't afford them because we don't have the money to pay for them. So it's putting more of a burden on the state police. State police have less and less funding too. We need to support our police, need to support local police and state police because of the rural situation.
Okay. Are there, I think you mentioned trying to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. How might one do that?
Well, mental health is a big problem in schools, and that's a completely different topic, right? Mental health is a problem, and it needs to be addressed, not just in the state of Pennsylvania, but across the United States, and it needs to be taken seriously. And I think there's a lot and we're seeing a lot of it come out of the woodworks from people that have been penned in from the mandates of keeping people in, which were awful, by the way. But yeah, my comment was people who are dangerous shouldn't have guns.
Okay.
Right.
Would you think in terms of prohibiting weapons of war or requiring training and safe storage?
Yeah, I think when it comes to we have I'll go back to your question here. We have well, there's training available. We have registration. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of what we do. You know, there are regulatory. When you purchase a gun,
right, you
can't just purchase a gun and walk out with it without going through a long. I've done it regularly. I'm a shooting advocate.
Okay. Berks County is 50% agricultural. We know growing seasons have changed. So far this summer, Pennsylvania has been spared the massive destruction of wildfires and floods occurring in some states. But storms are more destructive, and currently we're in kind of a drought. Should Pennsylvania do more to protect our economy by doing more to prevent climate change? What actions do you think the legislature should or shouldn't take?
Well, I'm also a fossil fuel person. So, and one of the things I think that's, I mentioned that earlier, but I raised a family here. This is my home. I drink the water here. I breathe the air here. I bike here. I fish here, we hunt here. So the people, we are good stewards of this land. People in, so in the coal industry, for instance, fossil fuel industry, which has been attacked by the Biden administration. we're good stewards of this land, and we have that we follow the rules. We do we do the right thing when it comes to the environment. So I think I mentioned earlier, the last thing I think something that like climate change needs is for the government to get involved.
The 2022-2023 state budget contains large increases for education funding, but it's a one-year thing. We have 500 school districts in Pennsylvania, most of which rely heavily on the property tax because the legislature hasn't agreed to a long-range plan for school funding. And we have charter schools that pull $2.6 billion from the public schools' budgets. Some say Pennsylvania's charter school law doesn't provide the transparency and accountability that is required of our public schools. Two questions. What is your view of how Pennsylvania funds both public and private schools and charter schools, and do we need charter school reform?
Yeah, so I am in favor of charter schools, and I am very in favor of public schools also. My mother was a public school teacher, and I think that our public schools need work. I think this past budget, there was a lot of money went back into the public schools and specifically the students. But one thing we've got to understand is that we don't have one-size-fits-all education anymore. The other thing we need to do, I think, Bill, I don't know in the last time you tried to get an electrician or a plumber, it's pretty tough. We need to invest in the trades also. We need to embrace the fact that not every child needs to go to college. When we talk about charter schools, I am in favor of charter schools because I believe that there needs to be choice. I think that competition breeds good business, and in the education business, it breeds good students, right? So when we speak about that, though, I think there needs to be complete disclosure and transparency as it relates to charter schools, and specifically. If the money follows the child, I know we didn't say that, but when we talk about school choice, right, we often say that the money follows the child, or the student, pardon me. Mm-hmm. If the money follows the student, then that charter school should be providing the same thing that the brick and mortar school, in this case, the home school, would have provided. So, and if that's not the case, there needs to be just transparency for that charter school.
Okay. Pennsylvania is one of 9 states with closed primary elections. The primary is the spring election where the main parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, choose their candidates. And unless there happens to be nonpartisan questions on the ballot, only Democrats and Republicans can vote. Some states have open primaries where all voters choose candidates. Research has shown that states with open primaries have more moderate or centrist candidates, while states with closed primaries have candidates who are more radical to the left or to the right. Should Pennsylvania change how we run our primary elections? Sorry about that. Please tell us why you feel as you do.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I don't profess to have all the answers to everything, but I have been meeting with a lot of businesses, meeting with a lot of families, going door to door. And interestingly, I shared with you that I am a Republican, a conservative, and that comes up when I speak to people. And only one person of all the people I've met mentioned to me, well, I shouldn't say that they are independent. More than one person, but this particular independent said, how come I can't vote in the primary? Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't know that answer. But he said, I have to pay taxes all year round. How come I don't get to vote in the primary? And I shared with him, I said, that's why I always tell people that are independent, I would always pick a party. Pick whatever party you seem closest to so you can vote in the primary. So unfortunately, I don't have enough answer to do it. I did have one person actually was very passionate about it also. Mm-hmm. But frankly, I think that I see no reason why independents couldn't vote in a primary.
Yeah, interestingly, the numbers show that there are more non-aligned or independent voters now, and that's the largest growing segment of the voting population. Compared to other states, Pennsylvania has rather weak laws on campaign finance limits and enforcement. And there are loopholes in the disclosure laws that apply to lobbyists. Lawmakers aren't banned from taking gifts. Do you feel these laws need to be strengthened, or are Pennsylvania's laws fine for Pennsylvania?
I think it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about a slice of pizza as a gift or a Rolex as a gift, right? I think there's a big difference there. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think disclosure and transparency are the most important thing. The government needs to be more accountable in these things. I think that's fair to say, and I think there needs to be disclosure. If you're going to receive a gift, you need to disclose it and let the voting public know what you've done.
Okay. Pennsylvania's election law is out of date. In the past 3 years, there have been hastily made legislative changes that didn't work out the way some legislators thought they would. We've had disagreements and court suits on how these hastily written laws should be interpreted. We've lost election officials because the job became so stressful due to constant changes. Certainly, there's a more reasonable way to bring our election code up to date. What kind of changes, if any, would you like to see in our election code?
Yeah, so this is a very, when I was campaigning during the primary, this was the #1 issue. Hands down, it's economy now. But during the primary, it was voting laws. And voter ID is probably #1. I think across both aisles, you'll see that voter ID is something that's extremely important. I think one of the things that we don't talk a lot about is cleaning out registries too, right? I don't know, Bill, it's not fair for me to ask you questions, but if you're on social media, on a Facebook or something like that, and we have people in our lives that pass away, they're still on our Facebook or they're still in our phone. The same with our voter registry, right? Those people that pass away are still there, and they need to be cleaned out. In every municipality, that's municipality by municipality, county by county, that needs to be done as well. I think that on top of that, I referenced earlier that voter registration and mail-in voting form application being put together is a travesty. It's absolutely does not make sense with two distinct and different forms that you can't vote if you're not, you can't get a voter application if you're, or, pardon me, a mail-in vote application if you're not registered to vote. So, and I think mail-in voting, look, we've had elections during pandemics before. We've had elections when there was bad weather. I think we should also have a national holiday for Election Day. Let people get to the right. It's our most important thing. You're pushing buttons, so I'm talking too loud.
No, you're doing fine. My phone turns off if I'm not, don't touch it every now and then.
And so I think that the mail-in voters, mail-in ballots are something that should not be. There's certainly absentee ballots that have worked for years. Why did we need to change it? We didn't need to do that. We're really monkeying with our election system, and I think it's wrong.
Do you think it would help legislators to work in county election offices, maybe 2 different counties, before they vote on new election laws, and would you be willing to do it?
I absolutely would do anything to forward voter ID, paper ballots, and cleaning out voter registry and eliminating mail-in voting. Yes, I would absolutely do that.
Founding father Alexander Hamilton fought for and set up the Federal Reserve Bank to set monetary policy. This is not in the Constitution, but it is a driving force in handling inflation. Inflation is not a problem the Pennsylvania legislature can solve, so we haven't asked you how you would solve it. That said, should the legislature consider the inflationary or deflationary aspect of every bill it considers? If so, how far forward should we look?
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely agree with you on that, Bill, but we're not going to argue because we already decided that we're friends. But our economy's bad and it's getting worse. And we need to restore voter confidence. And while most of that, I believe, is specific to the Biden administration, which you reference in your question, I think that if we open Pennsylvania up for business, we could do a lot. If we open Pennsylvania up for business if we lower our taxes, Pennsylvania is one of the highest tax base in the United States of America. If we lower that taxes, small business can then take that and invest into their employees. They can invest into their businesses. They can invest into their communities and get excited about growing them. And what does that do also? There's something we haven't talked about, and if there's a question on it, I apologize, but we haven't talked about property tax. By growing business and opening Pennsylvania up for business and in every way, we can lower our property tax as well. So it's a win-win-win to grow Pennsylvania instead of just trying to figure out how to, and one of the biggest things is the energy in Pennsylvania, though. Coal, natural gas. I'm not in the natural gas business, but it's here in Pennsylvania, and it makes sense for us to do anything possible to harness those natural resources.
I'm going to allow you, we have 60 seconds left for a 30 seconds for a closing statement. Sorry about that.
Well, I thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate people taking the care to be educated voters. I was proud to be named Businessman of the Year last year, not because of the accolades, but because of the recognition of getting things done for a business community. And that's what I plan to take to Harrisburg, that aspect of getting things done. On behalf of our communities, on behalf of our families. And throughout my life, I've made a point to be of service to others. I'm a lay minister at my church. I'm a Sunday school teacher. I've been a coach. I'm on countless boards and philanthropic events. And that's the very basis of why I want to run for office and why I want to go to Harrisburg. I believe I put those two pieces together in an effort to help the people of the 124th and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Barton, for sharing your views with us. Viewers, please remember there is another candidate for the 124th Pennsylvania Senate District, Tina Burns. You can see those interviews on BCTV's website or YouTube page. To check your voting status, go to vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is October 24th. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is November 1st, but please don't wait. Then check the League's online voter's guide, vote411.org. It's on your screen there, to confirm your new voting district and get more information on the candidates. Or contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com, 610-478-6490. Thank you for watching Candidates Up Front. I'm Bill Litvin. Good day.